Alright, welcome to this tutorial video in which I'm gonna be teaching you the one and only gradient trigger, my dudes. This trigger can allow your level to have some really cool visuals, especially if it is a glow level, but you can use it for a lot of different effects I'm gonna teach you guys in today's video. One thing you have to be careful about is be careful when you place this trigger, because if you place it, you're gonna get a huge flashbang. So this is a warning right now, so yeah, I'm just saying. Okay, anyways, today we're going to be learning about this trigger. I'm going to tell you guys about all of these things and how to use this trigger the best way. We're going to do everything as always, step for step, from beginning to end, very beginner friendly as well. So let's go into this trigger. And by the way, ignore that my pop-up is almost transparent, but it should be exactly the same for you. So now let's separate this section with multiple different sects. So these four input fields on the top are for something, and this one is for something, and these two are for something, and the ID is for something, and these two are for something else. So everything has a section. So I would say let's just start with the easiest one, which is these buttons. What do these ones do? So these ones specify on which layer this gradient should apply, and the layer that you select, it will apply on it and on every single layer that is behind it. Now, what does this exactly mean? I'm going to show you guys. So the very first thing we want to do is click on it and then go to edit object and then select two colors. Let's say I want to select color 6 and then detail color 7. So it has two colors, detail and base, and then you can click on this button right here and then change the color to red from that, and then you can see that the left side has become red, and then click on this 2 and then make it kind of like purple, like my colors, because they are very cool. And you can see that the effect applies as soon as this line right here that's kind of moving right now. If I remove the grid, you can see the line right at this line reaches here, we have the effect. So I'm just going to enable the ground, and I'm going to put a bunch of blocks here so that you can see. So right now we have this gradient effect, which has two colors, red and also purple, and we have selected the background. So this effect will only apply on the background. And if we do middle ground, which stands for this specific middle ground that does not exist by default, but you can enable it in here to have a middle ground as well. So now you can see that there's a middle ground, and if we make this also apply on the middle ground, you can see that it does not exist anymore. And B5, B4, B3, B2, and B1 are basically these ones. So I'm just gonna do a quick example to show you guys exactly what this is. All right, so I have created these blocks, and I just put this block on here and then gave it the layer, which you can go into here, edit group. So this is the Z layer, B5. So this one is B5, and this one is on B4, this one is on B3, and so on and so forth. And you can see that the more I go like that, the more they will hide like this. And then we have T1, T2, T3, T4, and now everything is hidden because the gradient is on top of everything that you can place inside the editor. However, there's also G, which stands for the ground, and if you click it, even the ground has been covered. UI stands for something that I'm going to show you guys in a bit, but max is basically everything that is on the screen. So for now, I'm just going to do background, and I'm gonna change the, I think you guys now understand exactly what this one is used for, and P is simply the player. So if you go on to platformer mode, and make sure to always mute the song because it's so loud, but yeah, if we make this a touch trigger, you can go on here and click on touch. That means that it will not activate unless a player touches that trigger. So now nothing happens, and if I touch it, now it enables. Very cool. So now let's have it on top of the player and everything below. So yeah, boom. Now we cannot see the player anymore. So now I would say let's actually move on to the blending modes. There are a few blending modes. 1, 2, 3. There are 4 blending modes, my dudes. So I would say let's just go to the background. We will only want to apply it on the background. Remove the touch trigger so you can see the preview in here. And yeah, I'm just going to begin with the very first one. The first one is an additive, which is basically blending. You know, when you have a block, let's say you have this block right here, and it has the color red and also blending, and then you scale it up a lot. You can see that there's this effect on the background that is kind of has a cool color. So you can achieve this as opposed to having to scale this up a lot. You can just use a gradient trigger, set the colors that you want, and set it to additive. The additive is the same as blending. So this way the background is going to have this very cool effect, and now it's not only red but also red going to purple. And you can also change the colors in here, kind of have this cool effect So yeah, you can change the color of the background using this plus in here. If you go to the settings and plus, and then you can play around with this as well and have different colors for the background. But yeah, otherwise this is very self-explanatory. And one thing I like to do for the background, especially with additive, is to have one of the two colors go into complete zero opacity. So this way only one color will appear, as you guys can see. So green has opacity of 0 and red exists now, so the right thing changes. And if I make this like say black, now you can see the effect clearly only appearing on the right, and this can lead to some really cool effects. I'm just gonna bring the background up a little bit, and yeah, next up we have the multiply, which basically multiplies the colors of the gradient with the layer that you have selected, the color of the layer. So right now this can be really cool. I like to use this when you use, for example, the background is really white, just make it completely white, and then you can set two different colors like this, and then you have a background that basically has two colors that go kind of basically like a gradient, right? And look at this, you can like change it to that, and boom, look at this looks like it's a, I don't know, it just looks like a very cool gradient thing. And yeah, that is, you have to make sure just that the background is on white, and then you can play around with some of these guys, right? Or you can make one of them black, and then you have this awesome effect like that, right? You can do like that, maybe like a little bit of rainbow, very clean looking. Okay, so what else do we have? Multiply, how do I like to use this? Yeah, I think that's it. Then we have invert, which basically just inverts the colors. I think this is also self-explanatory. You can mess around with some of the effects and some of the colors to get the desired effect. I don't use invert mode that much, but you can see that sometimes it just has these beautiful effects. And yeah, with that we have blending done, blending modes done. I'm just gonna keep this on the multiply because it basically has the coolest effect for the background. Make sure the background is on white. And now we have this thing. And another thing that you guys can see is that you can rotate this gradient to also rotate in what direction this gradient will go. So by default it's from red to blue, as you guys can see in this trigger, but you can click on this rotate and then it's from top to bottom. So yeah, that is very cool. And another thing, if you guys want this to animate, you can give it a group ID. Click on here, give it a group ID of 1, for example, then go to the rotate trigger, put it in here, and then do 1, click 1 in here, and then maybe give it a very high time, and then maybe like 5, click in here a 5, and here 10. And now if you play it, you can see that the gradient trigger is rotating, and we have also the effect rotating, which is very cool. So this is, we have the blending mode and this one covered, which is awesome. Now we have the ID, which I think makes a lot more sense if we first go into the top section first. So yeah, I guess let's just do it. So U here stands for up, down, left, and right. So what this means is it limits the it basically masks this gradient. If you don't know what masking means, it basically just means cutting that gradient into a smaller area, or just making that gradient available in a, or visible in one single area. So let's add a circle, for example. You can use any object you want in here, or in the entirety of the editor pretty much, and give it a group ID. Let's say give it 2, and now we go on here and type 2 on the up. So what that means is that this is going to be the up section of which the gradient will be displayed. And now if you put another one, give it the ID of 3, now you go on here and go into the right, so R right, give it 3. Now you can see exactly what's happening. Add another one, add the 4, and now we have the down there 4, and now one last one, we have the 5 and 5 on the left. 5, boom. Now we have the gradients that we added basically masked into this single circle, or that's not a circle, but that's a square. But yeah, now you can of course change the color of the background if you want to, and you can see that it's being displayed in that area. And what you can also do is select all of these circles and then go to edit object, extra, and then hide, which will basically hide the circles. They are still there, but they are hidden. And yeah, now you can play around with this stuff, and you can already see what you can do with this. So for example, you can rotate this like that, and then you have a left kind of gradient, and then move all of these dots to here, and then you can move this one down, and then this one, the one up, move it a lot to the top, and then maybe make it on top of everything, and then make sure that the one down there is like that. And then you have this effect that basically only applies on the very edge of the screen or on the level. So I think you guys now understand what this means. You can do a lot of different cool stuff with it. I'm gonna show you guys how to do cool effects with this at the end of the video, but I'm just gonna be teaching you guys what these individual things do, and then you can play around with them if you want to. But yeah, I'm also gonna be teaching a bunch of things. And then we have vertex mode, which stands for vertex mode, and what it basically does is instead of having corners like that, what it does is you can have them like that. So top right, bottom left, and top left. So this way you can make a square. As you guys saw, like in a bit, like previously it was not a square, but now we can give the bottom left circle a group ID of 2, and then go into the gradient. So bottom left is 2, and then this one has a group ID of 3. So right bottom is 3, and then this one has a group ID of 4. So top right is 4, and the left one is 5. The last one is 5. Boom. I'm just gonna make the background kind of like dark gray, and I'm also gonna remove the middle ground for some cool stuff. And yeah, you can see exactly what this can be used for, and you can see that if you scale these objects like that, you can get some really insane stuff going on here. And yeah, you can basically do whatever you want with this, and you can also of course hide the circles like that. And yeah, this is much more, gives you a lot more freedom than the non-vertex mode, but it really depends on what you are trying to reach. And yeah, you can still rotate this gradient trigger and have this very cool effect around it. But one thing that I like to use this for is having a small additive gradient on the background. So for example, let's say you make color 6 0 opacity black, and then you can see that there's this type of effect. And then let's say you make the second color a red, right? And now what you can do is you can do stuff like that. Make sure that this one is only on the background, and now you can do stuff like this, which looks really cool. However, you just make sure that this one is rotated perfectly, and now you can see that yeah, you have a very cool looking gradient coming from down there, and you can make it additive for this very nice look, and you can also make it multiply invert. However, you may say well, it doesn't really work if you go too much to the right, and that is a very easy fix. All you have to do is instead of having 4 points like that, what you want to do is just set 2 points. So instead of having 4, you can set 2 only, and so the gradient will basically apply to this whole area in here like that, like a whole area, right? So let's give this a try. So we're gonna get rid of all the things that are on the right. So this one is bottom right, you want to get rid of it, and top right. So this one you want to get rid of it, and you also have to make sure that you are not on vertex mode, so you only have up and down. So in this case, we want to have the up as 5 and the down as 2. Now this circle over here has 5 and this one has 2. You can see 5 and 2, and the reason why they're flipped is because I have this trigger flipped like that. So this is how it's supposed to be, and then these ones we can just rotate them like that. Boom, like that. Perfect. Now you have a gradient that basically goes for infinite. This one is gonna go forever, which is, you can set this using only 3 objects, which is so beautiful. And you may say, well, why don't you just have it like that? Because it usually goes from way down there into way up there, and sometimes you just want to limit it between 2 and 5. Then this way it basically starts right here and ends in here, which can have this very cool effect and also make it normal for a even cooler one. So that's why I use this thing right here. It is very useful. And now you may say, well, I want to have this, and I also want to have the background as let's say multiply and then color 3 and 4. So color black and also red. Let's say you want to have, no, let's say black and kind of red, not red, this is blue, like that. And I also want to have that red thing down there, but it doesn't work. I can only do 2. The reason for that is because there are things called gradient IDs, which is what this one stands for. So every gradient that you put has an ID specified to it, and it is a unique ID. So you have to, let's say this gradient effect, this one right here, has ID of 0. If you have another gradient trigger that has also the ID of 0, it's simply gonna overwrite the old one. So what you have to do is simply give it a new ID. Every time you add a new gradient trigger, it is very important to add a new ID, or otherwise it's just going to replace the old one. And now you can see that we have both effects right there, but this one doesn't seem to be working because now the blending modes are a bit messed up. So you have to kind of give it, you can no longer have it on the background only, rather have it on the middle ground, so that, yeah, now it only applies there. You can have it as additive as well for this awesome atmosphere in here. You can create your level very beautifully in here as well. And yeah, what else do we have in here? You have disable, which basically just, for example, let's say you don't want to have this red anymore, so you go to 0 and then disable. So as soon as this one hits, it's going to disable the ID of 0. So basically you are overlapping it or replacing that gradient effect of that ID with a none, with no gradients basically. Or you can disable everything and then it basically disables every single gradient, as opposed to having to disable every single one of them manually. And another thing that I like is using this trigger to make cutscenes. So a lot of people, when they do cutscenes, they do it the bad way by adding a black block that is really big, and then they add it on top of everything, but it doesn't go on the ground and it doesn't go on top of the UI. So it is also not optimized and it has a lot of issues. So one way to fix this is to use the gradient trigger again. So what you can do is add a gradient trigger and then give it the color, let's say 5 and also 5. So this one is a solid color. So if I make it red, everything is going to be red because it has the two same colors. And now what you can do is make this color black. So 5 is now black, and then go to the edit special and make sure it's max. So it's on everything. And now what you can do is you can bring the opacity down to 0. And now you can see that the trigger is just invisible over here because the color has 0 opacity. However, what you can do now is simply do color. So you want to put the color channel in here, color trigger, change the color 5 to black with full opacity. So now it slowly goes to full opacity, and then later on it goes back to 0. So now what you have is a cool boom. It goes to black and it goes back, and this is awesome. You can see that, let's say you have something in here. I'm going to give this a group ID of 3, both of them, and then make sure that they are set on spawn trigger. And now I'm going to put a spawn trigger in here. This is just a small showcase of how to do a very cool end screen, not end screen, like a cutscene. And then go to this one, see the ID of it that you selected it. It's 3. So put 3 in here and make sure you add spawn ordered. I'm going to do a tutorial on spawn trigger as well, but for now I'm just going to do it like that. So now if I touch this, it's going to go to black and then go back again. And we did this only using 4 objects, and it is very optimized. It goes on top of everything. If you don't want it to go on top of the UI, just click on ground, and now if you have anything on the UI, it's going to stay. And this is something that Robtop also uses. He uses a gradient trigger for the transition the sewer into the elevator part, and it is of course the most optimal way to do this. And another thing that I like using this for is, for example, let's say I have this, it looks very cool atmosphere, right? I'm just going to remove this and make the ground as black because it is very cool as well. Now I'm going to add a new gradient trigger, flip it like that, and then make it additive. And then the first color is going to be invisible, and then the second color, next 3, let's see, 2 is 3. I'm going to make it, let's say yellow. Let's do yellow, blending. And now I'm going to make sure that it's coming from down there. And what I want to do here is I want to give it a new ID to make sure it doesn't overlap with any of the old ones. I'm going to give it a down ID. So this one is 3, the next 3. So this one is going to be 3. I added an object in here with the group ID of 3. I'm talking too fast, but I don't know why. I'm going to add it right below the background, like below the ground, like right here. Yeah. Then I'm going to do down is 3. No, I'm going to do down is 3, not up, like that. And now you have this one, which if what you can do here is you can bring color 2, the one that you selected as yellow, to black, and then you can add a pulse trigger like that, and then pulse channel 2, the color that you selected in here that used to be yellow, you make this and then do this and then yellow. So this is a fade out, and now you have this cool, very cool effect like that. Boom. So this one you can basically do, let's do touch trigger and also multi-trigger so that you can click it multiple times, and now boom. So for example, like a drop, you can have a very cool pulsing thingy, which it can be really awesome. And yeah, you can change the color in here of the thing that you want. You can also do a little bit of fade in, fade out, so it's kind of smooth like that. Awesome. Very cool. And another thing that people do with, what is it called, like the invert. So what they they do is they add circles. Let's say I want to have, let's add 4 circles and a gradient trigger. I'm going to teach you guys how to do a cool effect. I'm going to give this gradient trigger the colors 16 and 16. I'm going to make it yellow. I'm going to make it invert. And what I'm going to do is going to add 4 circles. So this is the first one. So top left is 4. I'm going to make sure I'm on vertex mode. So top left is 4. And then we're going to do another circle. This one is 6. So top right is 6. And this one is going to be 7. So bottom right is 7. And bottom left is 8. So now you have this thing. However, what you can do is hide these ones. However, I'm not going to hide them for now so you can see what's going on. So you want to select the bottom ones and then move them up. So now it looks like that. However, if you move them like that, you can see exactly what's happening. So keep them like that and then give those two a group ID. So the ones that you dragged from down there, give them a group ID of 9, for example, and then add a move trigger and move them. Like, let's say you want to move them -20 and use ease out for a very cool effect. And now I'm going to make it on touch trigger, and look at this. If I do boom, it has this very, very nice effect. I'm just going to make these hide so you can see it better. Boom. Very, very cool. So now what I'm going to do is select the ones that are on top. So this is how it is. So the ones that are on top, give it a new ID of 10. So both of them have now 10. And now this one, copy and paste 10. You are going to go up in 0.33. And now boom, you have this awesome effect. And of course, you can change this to, let's say, -50 in 5.6. So -50 in 5.6 like that. And then let me just make sure they are exactly on top of each other. And boom, you have this very cool effect, which if you go into, you're going to realize if you make this gradient on P, now the player also gets affected by it, which is honestly really, really cool. So I see a lot of people doing this, and what else you can do is give all of these guys a group ID of, for example, 11, and then add another circle. I'm just going to click on F6, which is going to show all of the invisible objects. So this one, or you can click F6, you can see on the top left, invisible hide is on and off. Now it's off, so I can see the invisible blocks that you set through the extra and the hide. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another circle. I'm going to add this one this time. I'm going to add it right between them, and then I'm going to give it a group ID of 12. Make sure it's hidden as well. And now what we can do is add a rotate. So we want to rotate all of these. I'm going to give them a new group ID, the ones that I used for the gradient. I'm going to give them a group ID. They are already on 11, so I'm gonna give them another new one. So this one is 13. So you want to rotate 13 around the new circle that I added that has the ID of 12, like that, and then maybe rotate it like slightly like that, maybe with a little bit of ease out on touch as well. Now boom, you have this awesome effect that you can expand on using various different things. What you can also do is, yeah, it's basically endless stuff that you can do. Add a color trigger, make sure it's on 16, and then make it red, and then copy and paste it, go like that, make it yellow, copy and paste, green, copy and paste, cyan, copy and paste, like that, basically rainbow. And then make sure every one of them is on 0.1, and then click on create loop. What this is going to do is just loop all of these effects, and then you can see that it's, yeah, it is a rainbow. And now if you do this, boom, you have this incredible effect that you can do in your levels. And yeah, you can move them up a little bit, and boom, very, very cool. This can be used for like classic levels if you have a lot of pulse. And yeah, I'm just gonna make this one as color 16 and see how that's gonna look like. Look at this, guys. This is very, very cool. Boom, awesome. This is gradient trigger. Everything I did was just 60 objects. If we get rid of the nonsense in here, it is only 34 objects. Really, really optimized. Most of them are like the rainbow thing, but yeah, I guess that has been it for this video. And I'm gonna make sure to upload this level for you guys as unlisted so that you guys can check it out as well. I really hope you guys learned something new today. Trigger tutorial. If you did, make sure to like the video right now, and also check out my main channel. I do a lot of very cool videos there. Make sure to subscribe to the channels for more tutorials, and click on the playlist that is on the screen right now for more tutorials about the 2.2 editor. I do like a lot of really in-depth tutorials about every single thing that is in the editor. I'm trying to do my best now to upload as many as I can. I'm gonna upload it as unlisted, and yeah, here's the ID in case I forget to put it in the description. But yeah, that's it, I guess. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next